a chartered accountant, unfortunately. Yeah, but everybody does stupid things when you're 21, so trying to be a CA was my stupid thing. Fatima and I studied in the same college. We were 3 years apart. So I'm a BCom and then a CA, and today I'm the Chief Technology Officer of India's most advanced, technically advanced media and entertainment institution. I also sit on the board of governors of the world's foremost association of media and entertainment technologists. And the interesting thing about that paradox is that is possible. That is the reality of today's world. And honestly, that's my own life experiences has led me to formulate some of what you're going to see. So, why are we talking about education for work? Why do we even need to talk about it, right? What's the big deal? We are dealing with the largest number of people ever in history. While we have had for the longest time very, very few people, the moment the Industrial Revolution started and people started to live longer, this is where we are, where we were at least 3 years ago, right? But that's not just it. We're also officially in the fifth age. So we've gone past the Stone Age, Medieval Age, Industrial Information Age, and we are now in the intelligent and immersive age. Artificial intelligence, computer vision, machine learning, VR, AR are all part of our lives, but we are also in that flux period, we are in that transition period, right? Where analog has gotten out of our lives, but we're not fully immersive yet. So, before we actually get to 4.0, let's spend a couple of minutes on what the journey has been to 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, right? So then there'll be a lot of the content on the screen. You can kind of ignore it. I'll put up the PDF later for you guys to look at it. But essentially, when we started at the medieval age, our education was the Gurukuls of India, the academies of Greece. You had similar institutions in China, Japan, all Bronze Age civilizations, right? And the focus back then was quality. You had a low student to teacher ratio. Each student was taught by a plethora of subject matter experts. They learned everything. They learned languages, warcraft, everything, economics. And it was highly personalized, but because it was highly personalized, it was fundamentally unscalable. And that's really where the problem has been, right? Also, it was heavily restricted. It was restricted to the elite, to the influential, and the non-institutional education was peer-to-peer learning or generational learning. So the potter father taught his potter son, or the mother taught the daughter, or it was based on skill sets, peer-to-peer or generational learning, right? Then comes the industrial age, and industry transforms society. Machines come in both analog and mechanical, and humans start to use them to make their lives easier. And when that happens, your engines emerge, the world becomes smaller, you're able to travel more, the world opens up. Before the jet engine was invented, hardly anybody moved out of their, city, forget country. Very, very few people traveled by ship, right? So that then led to 2.0, where we invented the one-to-many broadcast model, where there was one person speaking and broadcasting to many. So the personalization of education went away and it was replaced by quantity. So we sacrificed that element to get mass enrollments because you needed all these people to work in the industrial age, right? Teachers became the source of information. Focus on memorizing information, annual, biannual testing started to come in, right? Priority was still given to literacy and information recall, not so much for analysis and analytical prowess, right? Very, very limited use of technology. So we expanded access to education, but we lost the core of education, which is personalized, scalable. Now you get into the information and digitization age, and then it transforms society even more, right? Electronic machines replace human labor. We now call them computers. Now we carry most of them in our pockets. They've completely gone away. You don't need to do repetitive performance activities anymore. Almost. Once upon a time, you had somebody putting a stamp on all the letters. Nobody's there putting stamps on email anymore. So looking at that, right, you actually now have purely digital, non-analog professions where somebody sits at a table and does their job. purely electronically. So that world, digital media makes storage of almost unlimited information possible. So most of what, essentially, this is where we are now, right? So that has led us to Education 3.0, where we're still broadly a one-to-many broadcast model, but the soft skills have started to come in at some levels, in some high schools. A very, very small percentage, and the school is probably in that small percentage, has started to introduce the concept of flipped classroom, where the teacher is not necessarily the source of information anymore. The teacher is starting to play the role more as a mentor, as a guide, as an analysis developer, is helping students to actually think about subjects rather than just give them information. In this situation, you still have a majority of the curriculum that's still operating in the one-to-many traditional memory-based structure. So where are we now? We are now in the immersive and intelligent age. The internet and the cloud has made it possible to store and access an unlimited amount of information instantly. You no longer have need for memorization, you no longer have need for calculation. The need for calculation has almost disappeared in our lives. Even your left brain thinking activities is now starting to be replaced by the artificial intelligence, computer vision and machine learning trio. I mean, we had an example of ChatGPT and some others, right? But it's not just that, many, many things. Like my daughter doesn't even bother to check the time. She's like, Alexa, what's the time? Right, really. So, I don't even know how many kids today can actually read a clock, since everybody's on a digital watch, right? So, in this day and age, where that analog has completely made it out of our lives, we don't use analog cameras anymore, we don't use analog clocks anymore, even cars, honestly. Tesla is completely digital. I have Mahindra XU, 700. Whole thing is digital, right? Just the last bit of the wheels moving is analog. So what does Education 4.0? What does it need to be? So simply, it is hybrid, personalized and blended learning based on individual abilities and natural inclination to achieve both quality and scale using technology as the lever. So what's the structure for Education 4.0? First things first is take the teacher out of the equation when it comes to information. Don't waste the teacher's time with being the information keeper and provider. You got the internet, you have the cloud, create an open source repository, not Wikipedia, because it's all wrong there, right? Any of you who use Wikipedia for your assignments, all wrong. Telling you now. A proper open source repository which students can go and access. So they're told tomorrow's subject is this, please go and get whatever information you want. These are the recommended sites. Now they have the information. Use the contact time with the teacher to actually discuss it, analyze it, have a thought, have something, right? So the quality and the quantity of information should not be restricted based on which institution the student studies in or what their socioeconomic status is, which unfortunately it is today. A student who goes to a municipal school has a completely different level and degree of information and knowledge than somebody who studies here. And we don't need to do that. We don't need it anymore. It's available, right? So with that, this repository is to be regularly updated by all the players in the pipeline. Bring the industry in, bring the teachers in. The student, teacher, industry, subject matter experts continually update this repository, which is happening already through blogs and YouTube videos and many other sources. So once you've got this information piece taken care of, then you move on to what should the teacher do. The teacher's role actually is multiple, right? So you have teachers who still give you information and knowledge because there are some things which is just not possible for the students to get everything. But you have to have a skill set, a teacher skill set to impart skills. You have to have a teacher that gives you a deep insight into a subject. You have to have a teacher that essentially takes a visionary view and helps you chart the way forward. You have to have a teacher that actually does philosophical thinking in a particular subject to put that light bulb moment in the student's mind. Could be high school students, could be higher and technical students, could be research students. Once we've got these skill sets into teachers, then the students use the open information cloud plus a combination of these teachers and get the subject matter expertise that they need. No annual, semi-annual testing. It is completely, I don't want to use unparliamentary language, but it adds no value, right? Just test them on a continuous basis, application based. Whatever you've learned, can you apply it in the real world? If you can't apply it in the real world, what's the point of having it? What's the point of knowing it? Right? Wherever possible, sandwich education. Get the kids out into the real world, let them apply it there, let them learn, let them take the hard knocks, come back and then say that, Acha, this is what I could figure out, this is what I couldn't figure out. Come back into that. Sandwich education at the higher and technical level is an absolute must. Right? What should an institution's goals be? Your institutional goals should be employment, entrepreneurship and research. Most people ignore this because only 2% of the population will actually be interested in research and 10% of that population will actually be good at research. So only 0.2% of a student base will actually end up doing research. But that 0.2% is what changes the world. And you have to identify that spark in the student early. If you don't have it on your radar, you completely end up missing this piece out. In my industry, why India is the animation factory of the world, we are the VFX factory of the world, but we don't own a single large global IP before Chota Bheem. Why? Right? Because this is not there yet. It's getting there, but we're not there yet. Kids, please, I'm not joking. When you have forgotten what you studied for your exams, what remains is education. Right? So when you're done with your 12th grade or whatever, please just go back and think, what do I actually know? That is your education. What do you still remember? What you studied for your exams is not your education. Because it's here today, gone tomorrow. Right? Now let's look at content. So we looked at structure, now let's look at content. Right? The top 10 in-demand jobs last year did not exist 10 years ago, 12 years ago. It's not like they were there, but they were not in the top 10, they just didn't exist. He spoke about ChatGPT. Prompt engineering today is a job. To write prompts for AI bots. Prompt engineering, the concept only didn't exist. Right? Drone operator. My industry, helicam operator was the highest paid job for a cameraman. Today that job doesn't exist. 10 years ago, there were no drone operators. Now everything is drones. So, what is the job that some of these people are going to do when they are at the peak of their career? So, an 18-year-old student who enrolls for a degree in 2024, they'll be at the peak of their career at 40 and 2045. What are they going to do? We have no idea. Essentially, we need to be preparing students for careers that don't exist, using technologies that have not been invented to solve problems that we still don't know. That is what Education 4.0 needs to do. It is a continuous process. And just reading this seems exhausting. When I was writing it, I'm like, damn, this is heavy and deep. But this is the reality of the world today. What do you do? Right? The other thing, your left brain activities of analytical problem solving are today easily done. Sen spoke about lawyers and ChatGPT. IBM has created something called IBM Watson. Entry-level jobs for US law school graduates have crashed by 75%. If there are 100 kids being hired, today only 25 are being hired because IBM Watson is doing all the basic entry-level law interpretation, which is 90% of the work. So they've got these 25% of the lawyers who are running this bevy of machines, churning out opinion after opinion after opinion at 1/4 the cost. So, what do you do now? Just like information retention is redundant now, so will base level analytical thinking. And he spoke about the bottom two levels. Right? Now what? What are humans going to do? What are all these people in the world, highest population? Karenge kya hum log? Essentially, this is what we need to do. We need to do creative thinking because the machine can't do that. No artificial intelligence in the world can do that today. Humans beings possess something which is unique, which is called the imagination center of our brain. Even though nothing we ever create is genuinely original, everything is a confluence of things we've heard, seen, watched and read, which are processed through the imagination center of our brain to create something that seems original. AI can never do that. Right? Sorry. So human skills will be needed for this. So what we already have is we have the education pathway, we have the skilling pathway. This is your education pathway. Information analysis, understanding, explanation. Demonstration, training, practice. What we need to do is add a creative pathway. The new idea, the new thought. Where does that come from? Right? Now, creativity has nothing to do with any industry in particular. It's got nothing to do with painting, art, dance, drama, nothing. It is an approach. It is a way of thinking. You can paint in a most uncreative way, you can sweep the floor in the most creative way. The people who hang outside windows and clean the windows, I find them fascinating how creatively they are able to clean the entire window. The other thing is that everybody thinks that creative is only supposed to be focused here. It's wrong. This is your standard pyramid. Ideators, creative managers, workers. Creativity goes across the board. And that's where you have to start bringing it in. That's where you have to start inculcating it. 60% of our high school curriculum today is science and maths. 25% is languages, 10% social studies, 5% other things, which includes all your entire right brain development. This needs to change. Because your physics, chem, maths is your pathway to engineering. Chem and bio is pathway to medicine. Where is your pathway to media and entertainment and design? That's all extracurricular. Moment is extracurricular, parents don't pay attention to it, students don't pay attention to it. Nobody pays attention to it. It's like, theek hai, okay. Right? So that's the problem. Outside of, and now yoga, food, yoga, films. These are India's 3 greatest weapons of soft power. And we're not developing the third. Because we're killing the standard native creativity. Right? So essentially the goal, and this is, I put it up, you can read it, the bell is rung, so I don't want to end up go down that route. So essentially you want to start to include this in the entire NEP, right? So both in your primary, secondary, as well as the last 3+4. Include that in high school. Break up science and maths into functional science and advanced science, functional maths and advanced maths. Take advanced science and advanced maths out, keep it for only the students who want that pathway. Bring in media and entertainment, foundational education, narrative thinking, lateral thinking, design thinking, creative thinking. People should know what is narrative thinking. Narrative thinking is storytelling. Human beings are natural storytellers. 6 million years ago, whenever we were cavemen and cavewomen, when we figured out that this piece of charcoal can write stuff, what did we do? We told stories on the walls. We didn't do math calculation using it. Right? We are natural storytellers, and that's really what we need to get. If you're as a CEO, the better CEO is the one who tells the better story. The better doctor is the one who's able to engage with the patient better. So with the engineer, so with the lawyer, so with everybody. Right? So coming back to, this is not an overnight process. Very few people are even thinking about it. Thankfully, our government is. Right? And so are a lot of governments across the world. There is already some work happening in various places. But we need to do this. We need to rebuild our entire curriculum from the ground up, from KG to PhD and research, to build this education 4.0 out. Everybody will join in July or October. Why? Everybody is going to do, unit, whatever, quarterly exams, annual exams. Why? So a lot of these whys need to be addressed. Yes, it will mean a complete annihilation of the structure and a rebuilding of the structure as organic as possible. But you need to do that. You don't need to change everything, but we need to start changing it in a way that kind of we are ready for education 4.0. So thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Mr. Chaitanya.